Coming up next on Tech News Today, Valve comes out against CSGO Lotto and other sites using its APIs for gambling. Nest shows off its new Nest Cam outdoor product. Google just can't win when it comes to antitrust charges in the EU. The FCC is going to adopt new rules around the era of 5G connectivity, and a tiny little Nintendo is about to fill your home with 30 old school games. All that next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1555, recorded Thursday, July 14th, 2016. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage process into the 21st century with a fast, easy, and completely online process. Check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/TNT. And by Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a low-cost, automated investment service and the most sophisticated way to invest your money. Whether you've got millions or you're just starting out, visit wealthfront.com/TNT and sign up to get your free personalized investment portfolio. That's wealthfront.com/TNT. And by Tracker, a coin-sized tracking device that pairs with your smartphone and keeps you from losing your most valued possessions. Visit thetracker.com right now and enter promo code TNT for 30% off your entire order. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech News Today, the show where we talk about tech news with people who are passionate about technology, who are oozing passion about technology. That's why we have Father Robert Ballecer here.
Yes, I'm known for my oozing.
Oozing is like one of those words that you just don't say,
no,
right?
It just doesn't work right.
Just, there's that. There's moist.
I mean,
moist is another one that you're like, why did I say that?
Exude passion.
But
oozing passion just has a negative connotation to it.
I suppose so. But in this case, it's right.
It is. I am actually literally oozing right now.
We'll get you a napkin. I'm sorry. Really happy to have you here. I'm sorry that this is my introduction for you. But hey, I just go where my brain takes me, and I just have to apologize for it later.
Yeah, fantastic.
Want to talk about tech news?
Let's talk about tech.
It suddenly got really weird. Sam Miskovich from Ars Technica detailed last week how Counter-Strike Global Offensive, or CSGO, was being used as a mechanism for gambling among players of the game. Third-party sites like CSGO Lotto allow players to bet weapon skins from the game and ultimately turn those winnings into real-world money. All along, Valve, creator of Steam gaming service that these third-party sites use to run their gambling sites, by the way. There's an API called OpenID API that they tap into to do that. Well, they've been pretty quiet about all this. This had critics kind of pointing fingers at Valve, wondering if they were intentionally complicit with what was going on. And today, Valve finally released a statement saying that gambling sites using their APIs in this way are not allowed per user agreements. Valve will begin to send cease and desist notices to the sites and warn users to stay away. They say we've stopped not saying things, and instead we're telling you run away. Why did it take this long?
Well, it took this long just because this is a very tricky area. Because if people are going to buy things or earn things with the resource, their time in game, who does it belong to?
Yeah,
it's a digital piece of property, but it's property nonetheless. So if it's my property, shouldn't I have the right to sell it? Shouldn't I have the right to trade? I mean, this has been going on way before Steam. People back in the World of Warcraft days will remember that there were armies of gold farmers. That's all they would do. They would collect gold, and then you could buy it.
You know, I completely forgot about
that.
You're right.
So, I mean, the only difference now is they've gotten much better at packaging it. It's no longer you have to go to this site and then deposit it with an escrow, and then you get payment, and the items get released. Now it's, well, no, there's sites that will tie straight into the game and make it easy for you to sell things that you have acquired. So, yeah, they could shut this gate, but the question is, can you stop this trend? And absolutely not.
I mean, maybe that's a question for Valve and the API that they have. If the API allows for certain things like this, I suppose Valve has to kind of ask itself the question, like, is this bad enough that they limit access to that API so that they kind of cut off the valve or shut off the valve?
Right. And if they do that, then it just drives it further underground. It's just, okay, maybe you don't have an automated system, But there's always going to be a way for me to take an item that is very prized that other people want and sell it to somebody. I mean, I just go on Craigslist and say, okay, you give me this money and then I'll transfer to your account.
I suppose the difference here, though, is, selling something is one thing. Going on and having like a lottery kind of like, all right, it really kind of, the way that this was presented is a lot less of, here's a marketplace, I've got this thing, you want it, you give me money and I'll give it to you. And it was more like, come in here and bring your items and you could win. And, really kind of like tickles that like gambling thing that's inside of people, that once they realize how exciting that is, I mean, that's kind of a dangerous road to go down.
Right. And in that sense, I mean, Valve is doing the right thing. Gambling gets really, really nasty, especially when you enable it digitally, so someone can sit in the comfort of their own home and gamble away their life savings, whatever it might be. I get that, but there's a bigger issue here than just, Valve is letting this happen or Steam is letting this happen, and it's, can you stop this?
Yeah.
And I mean, ultimately, if you take it to the end game, the answer is no, because if you're respecting people's rights to do with their property what they want to do, at some point, you just got to say, if you are intent on throwing this away, you will throw it away.
Yeah.
Sorry.
These in-game trading features were actually introduced originally in 2011, so they've been around for a while. It would be, I mean, that's long enough to expect that it would be hard for Valve to just completely not allow for these sort of things in some way, shape, or form. But cease and desist is a powerful thing, I suppose, but it is, like you're talking, it's more of like a game of whack-a-mole at that point, possibly. Yeah.
We do have to be careful about this, but I will say this, and that is, I have a Pikachu that I'm willing to sell. So if you want to, just reach me at @PadreSJ on Twitter.
Greg, running the words, is very interested. And it only took one story
There we go.
for Pokemon to be introduced.
I had to throw that in there. I'm sorry.
Don't worry. Pokemon's coming up later. In an email. I mean, in a feedback section, so not a story. I kind of tried to like keep the Pokemon news out of today's show from a story perspective, but we've got other things to talk about, like Facebook Messenger. If you use Facebook Messenger, articles posted there have been rather slow going, even though Facebook has its instant articles format, kind of speeding up the delivery of news on Facebook itself. And now, like chocolate and peanut butter colliding, instant articles is supported inside Messenger beginning today. All you got to do is look for the lightning bolt icon in Messenger next to shared links. That's supported, of course. And then those are going to be lightning fast thanks to instant articles.
Now, in your experience, does stuff like this actually work? Because I know it's not completely analogous, but I kind of compare it to moments in Twitter where it just became incredibly annoying and I do everything I can to shut it off. Do you see this as actually gaining ground? Will publishers want to use this to push the word out?
I don't know. I mean, I know that the different efforts, the different services, Google's doing this, Facebook is doing this. When you as a user experience it, it's pretty awesome.
Really?
Right? At least I've thought that, particularly with Google's, Google's method, that when you see that carousel and you tap it and it loads instantly, that's actually pretty great. Like, I would love to cut down time, and that's very similar to kind of what Instant Articles is doing. So sure, anything that speeds it up. I just don't know if that's enough to convince publishers to put in time and money and staff and all this kind of stuff to devote to this sort of thing. But, hey, Facebook has a lot of users. Messenger itself, 900+ million users. Great exposure.
Do you think this comes out of users just starting to get sick about their feeds being filled with what they would consider spam? And this is sort of Facebook's way of telling publishers, hey, we've got a better way for people to actually look at things that are associated with your product in a way that doesn't make people hate your product. We're not spamming
automatically like rebel against it because
it showed up in my feed and I didn't ask for it. And actually, it'd be interesting to talk to a psychologist about that. I've heard about that effect all the time. Does that actually happen where people subconsciously or consciously will not like a product because they felt as if it's spamming them all the time? And this could be a way to get rid of that. If someone is looking at your article, it's because they entered into this. They want this. Not because it just got dumped onto their feed.
Yeah, and I mean, in this case, it's exactly what you're talking about, right? You've shared a link in Messenger to somebody. If it's a faster link, I don't think anyone's going to complain, right? Like, actually, once you see that lightning bolt, you're gonna know to look for it next time because you'll realize that it just kind of delivered that a little bit faster, made the experience a little bit better. Actually, there's a great likelihood that a lot of people just aren't even going to notice.
Right.
They're just going to click the link and be like, I want to read the thing.
Yeah.
And then read it and move
precisely.
on.
For the average user, it's just going to be, it just shows up. Okay, great.
Oh, there's that link you shared with me.
How about that?
It's hitting Android first right away and then iOS next week. So go Android. Sometimes it doesn't always get first out of the door. There you go. I wonder why this time. Nest has taken one of its products and retooled it for the outdoors. The Nest Cam Outdoor was revealed today, taking its Nest Cam indoor camera that works to keep track of indoor places, obviously, and hardens it for outdoor use. Nest says its pursuit is to build the best security camera out there by recognizing when movement is worth alerting for or when it's not. So they have something called person alerts that's kind of built into this, and it'll determine if that movement is, in fact, a human being or other mammal that looks like a human being or something else, and then notifies accordingly. There's like 3 different like levels of notification alerts. So there's of like certainty from Nest, like this may be a human, pretty sure it's human, and oh yeah, definitely human. You want to look at this. Keep burglars from coming in.
We saw this technology about a year and a half ago at one of the PepCon mobile-focused events here in San Francisco, where they knew that the big issue with outdoor security cameras is all the false positives. I mean, if it's indoor and you have motion, okay, you want to know about that because it's inside your house. Mm-hmm. But unless you're really good about positioning your camera's going to have things like public streets and other people's yards, and you don't want it sending you a notification every single time something changes. Actually, the one that drives me crazy is cameras that get set off just by like a cloud passed over and it slightly got darker and then brighter, and you get 2 notifications.
Right.
So if you can build intelligence into the camera where it only tells you if a person shows up, and maybe it saves everything else. It saves animals that have shown up, and it completely disregards just changes in ambient light. That's actually a pretty cool product. I'd like to get one and test it. I mean, the drop cam is one of the original devices that made security cameras for everybody rather than just for IT geeks.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Nest acquired Dropcam. That was for $555 million back in 2014. So that's really what you're seeing here is the Dropcam technology coming from Nest. Weatherproof, obviously, 25-foot cable. There's a lot of stuff in the cloud, kind of what you're talking about, and I think this is maybe it's explored territory at this point, and maybe you're seeing a little bit of it in the Nest Cam Outdoor, but that you could potentially see a lot more of this, and I could see a future for it, is the kind of integration of machine learning into object recognition for things like this, so that after a short period of time, the camera learns the space that it's looking at and learns that there's a road out, there's a street out there that cars always pass by, and every time that happens, you don't seem to care. And then every time there's a person at the door, that actually makes a lot more sense. We'll send you the notification because that matches.
We interviewed someone, I cannot remember his name, but at CES this year, who was he basically one of the big pushers in the Internet of Learning things. And what his company specifically did was they made devices for elder care. And the idea was you could put one of these in, say, your parents' home, your aged parents, and it started to learn all of their habits. When do they turn the thermostat up and down? When do they turn on lights? When do they come downstairs? And then it could tell you if the patterns change, because that's typically, there's something wrong.
Right.
Like, your mom always gets up between 8 and 9 in the morning, and it's noon, and she hasn't moved. Mm-hmm. Okay, check.
The door has not opened.
The door has not opened. The light has not turned on. The power consumption in the house hasn't changed. That's a good sign that, okay, maybe there's some distress here.
Right.
And we know that Nest, even though they've been having difficulty, they are dedicated to integrating a lot of the different pieces. So between the cameras and the thermostats and various sensors that you can get, this is one more thing where they can get metrics on what actual life looks like. So the question will be, can they actually use it effectively?
Sure. If you're interested, it's $199 for this camera, U.S. and Canada, a whole bunch of other places like France, UK, Netherlands, a few others kind of opening up later this year, so you can check it out for yourself. Finally, in a quick update, last May, Google proposed a broader set of emoji that included more professions for both men and women to the Unicode Emoji Subcommittee. and their work continued over the last few months. Today, the subcommittee agreed to the 11 new professional emoji, but also including women and men into 33 existing emojis. So just broadening the scope yet again, making it easier to find one that represents the real you, because I know you use emoji all the time, Father Robert.
Stop. Just please stop. You know what this does? All this does is that because I don't want to update my phone every single time, it guarantees me that my cousins, my niece, and my nephew, who love sending me the latest emoji, they'll just show up as question marks.
Yes,
in
or
my
the
text.
little box with an X through it, or
Right,
whatever.
and I just have to say, stop. Just stop it. Just no more, please.
No, come on, you don't like fun.
You know what I like? We had emojis. They were like, colon, parentheses. That's
Old
your
school.
smiley face. I'm old school. I don't need a dedicated emoji button.
But if there is emoji, which there is, and if a lot of people like it, which they do, then we might as well have representative emoji of all types. And
No.
that's what's happening.
No.
That's a good thing, Father Robert. Come on. You of all people should know
Get
this.
off my lawn.
Fine. Do your sideways smiley face at me next time. I don't care. It's hard for me to remember to use emoji, but more and more I find myself thinking to do it. So the transition has begun. I've started using emoji, and I'm playing Pokemon Go.
Okay.
So I don't know what's going on in my life. Things are changing.
Here's the kind of emoji that I would actually use. Someone developed something that can be added into the Android operating system where it actually takes a picture of you as you're typing, and it will just add that emoji. So it's not actually laughing unless you're laughing. Otherwise, it's just
But it doesn't send the picture. What it does is it detects your actual emotion.
Am I
Is that what you're
sending?
saying?
Am I laughing?
That's
Am I crying?
a really great
There we
idea.
go.
This needs to exist.
The real emoji.
Yeah, you're like, oh, wow, you're really angry. Bloop, sends the angry thing. That's really good. Wow, your hands are clapping. You're just standing there like this while you're typing. That doesn't
You're
work. Okay.
actually vomiting. I'm going to put the sick face emoji.
We can keep going, and I'm sure it would only get worse.
Yes.
So let's move on. Up next, the EU targets Google yet again with concerns that it continues to abuse its power in search, this time actually in ads. But first, let's take a minute to thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans, the sponsor of this episode. Mortgages, oh my goodness, they are not a lot of fun to go through. You enjoy the end result, which is your home that you get to call your own and then spend the next however many years fixing up and spending a lot of money to do that. But getting there is not that much fun. All the paperwork, all the information, all the data, collecting all that stuff, it just kind of makes my head spin. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage approval process into the 21st century. It's fast, powerful, and completely online. Rocket Mortgage has taken all the complicated, time-consuming parts of applying for a mortgage out of the equation. So if you hate searching through stacks of old files and paperwork like I do, then here you go. With Rocket Mortgage, you can easily share your bank statements and pay stubs at the touch of a button, helping you get approved in minutes for a custom mortgage solution that's been tailored to your unique financial situation. And even better, beyond that, with Rocket Mortgage, you can do all of this on your phone or your tablet. You know, the power to do this is just kind of hanging out in your pocket, basically. It's a quick online process that you can manage from the convenience of your couch or your standing desk. So if you're looking to refinance your mortgage or to buy a home, check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/TNT. That's quickenloans.com/TNT. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS-consumeraccess.org, number 3030. And we thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for their support. All right, Google just can't win when it comes to the EU. And joining us to talk about a new antitrust charge is Mark Bergen from Recode. How's it going, Mark?
Hey, going great.
It's great to have you back here.
Thanks,
so this
John.
is getting all too familiar. And we didn't bring you on for Pokemon, which you've also been writing a lot about. I apologize.
That's okay.
Well, I'm sure there'll be plenty more opportunities to bring you back on for Pokemon. It doesn't go away.
It's not going anywhere.
So this is getting all too familiar at this point. Doesn't seem to be getting any easier for Google. Tell us a little bit about the EU's third statement of objections against Google right now.
Yeah, the Google's ongoing headache. It's interesting because it's sort of is similar to the prior two outstanding cases, right? We have one for the shopping service and then one against Android. They're very much in a world that sort of doesn't exist anymore. So this is they're saying the ads case is around text ads on other sites. Right? So Google has a relationship with their website, and it has a Google search bar, and then they're running the ad results. The search results are put up a search ad. Right? And that's Google's, and the claim is that they were knocking out competitors from getting there. And Google's actually changed the behavior, because a lot of the cases from 2006, the original claims, and then by the time this gets resolved, it could be 2 to 3 years from now, and the whole ad world will look very different from there. But it's still going to be a huge problem, and this goes right after the way that Google makes like 90% of their money.
Sure. Yeah, big deal. Obviously, targeting AdWords would be a huge blow for Google if it were to pass.
Yes,
I mean,
this is AdSense.
Or sorry, AdSense.
That's okay.
Apologize. The existence of competitors like Facebook with their kind of ads efforts. I mean, does that help Google in any way? And I'm sure Google's going to kind of talk this up.
Yeah, I imagine that. I mean, I haven't seen what their defense will be, but I imagine they're going to point just to Facebook, right? And this is like the claim that Google is dominant in online advertising. Facebook is the best counter to that, right? Especially in mobile advertising, Facebook's actually much more dominant than Google.
Mm-hmm. Is Google kind of talking about this at all at this point? I mean, I think they had a pretty brief statement, but they have a lot of work to do, I suppose.
They haven't said a thing publicly. They put out a couple of tweets this morning. I think their strategy has been, especially with the EU, is to stay as quiet as possible. And it's been, it's a huge frustration. And I think there's certainly people that in the company that have, left and pointed out that I don't think they took it as seriously as they should have. They didn't have a really great strategy for Brussels initially. They thought they were going to win the case a few years ago. They didn't expect it to come back last year. I don't imagine they expected 3 different charge sheets now.
The interesting thing is one of the last major cases with Google was with news in Europe, and eventually Google just said, fine, we'll just shut it down. To which many European vendors said, no, don't do that. Wait, you can't do that. Wait, no, you have to stay alive, and you have to do what we want. It sounds as if Google kind of just ignored what kind of a threat this would be. And this was not news. This was not a product that they don't care about. This was one of their major sources of revenue. So has there been any word from Google about why they didn't take this seriously?
Not an official word. I mean, my best sense is that I think they thought they were going to get a settlement with the prior commissioner of the EU. They had, a kind of a chummy relationship with Google, and there 3 different times when they had a settlement on. Depending on who you talk to, especially if you talk to Google, it's the German telcos and the publishers that were really the ones pushing this the entire time. And I don't think they kind of underestimated the power of those rivals there.
Okay. So this has obviously been expected for a while. You wrote an article last year just kind of hinting at the possibility of this eventually. Any signs to expect any more charges kind of in different directions at this point? It really just kind of like seems like the EU is laying on charge after charge.
Yeah, there was, from my understanding, it was that they were going to maybe like group together. There are some people thinking that the commissioner was thinking about grouping together charges, whether it's now because like Yelp and Expedia and other companies have been talking about local search as another one they want. Yeah. Certainly Yelp's love to see the EU come after and say like, okay, you're also abusing your power, Google, and local search results. I sort of have a feeling they might actually put that in, kind of group it together with the shopping case. But, I spent a little bit of time in Brussels back in February, and everyone I talked to, the sense is that no one really knows what the commissioner's thinking. She plays extremely close to her vest. Mm-hmm. So to be honest, I don't think I know, and I don't think Google knows.
Let me ask you this. I mean, Google's primary defense was there are other comparison shopping sites out there, and that they're doing what they do, and those other vendors will do what they do.
Right.
And I understand why the EU rejected that, but at the same time, you could look at something like Amazon and say, well, it's essentially a search engine for a bunch of different vendors that put themselves under the Amazon banner. Why wouldn't they get hit by these same rules? Why wouldn't they get charged of favoring certain vendors, in-house vendors, rather than those third parties that are registered with Amazon? Because it seems as if Amazon has even more power than Google when it comes to that impulse purchase.
And I think that's Google's argument and has been his argument. And that was interesting this morning. And in addition to the ads charge sheet, they had a kind of a supplemental charge statement of objections around the shopping case, which is like we have more evidence now And part of that evidence that Google's argument has been that Amazon and eBay are competitors with shopping, right? They're doing, to your point, they're doing the exact same thing. And then if that's the case, like if you look at the market share from Amazon and eBay next to Google, it's Amazon and eBay are clearly much more dominant in e-commerce than Google. But the commission has come back and said, no, we think of those as separate markets.
Yeah, well, that is interesting. So how do you fix this? Because it sounds almost as if the EU is saying, we would like you to break your algorithm, not to show us the most popular results, which would be from you, Google, but to include these lesser known links. I mean, it sounds so counterintuitive to how you design intelligent search engine algorithms.
Yeah, I mean, well, it depends on who you talk to, I suppose, or if you talk to Yelp. They certainly don't think the best results are from Google, but it does. And I think, I mean, it gets to my first point, it's a little bit, and I think there is some credence to the idea that Europe does feel like it's, that they're like so behind the times. This is like very reactionary. I think there's certainly people in the U.S. that think like that Europe is taking the charge on commission or competition and doing something more than what regulators have done here. But it feels so behind the times of where tech is moving. I also think that like Google's strategy is just delay this as long as possible,
Right.
And that way it doesn't really adversely affect their business. And they've certainly been able to throw as many lawyers as they can at this. So
Yeah.
I imagine they're going to have they would prefer to have a legal fight rather than change anything about their business.
For sure. Until they absolutely have to. Mark Bergen, Rico.net. Where can people follow all your work online?
At Pokemon Go.
Excellent.
I'll be there. Just look for me in the maps.
We'll just, unfortunately, we can't share, like, there is no like social component to Pokemon Go, so we can't point people there unless they happen to run into you on the street. How about your Twitter?
Yeah, it's MH Bergen, BERGN, like the county in New Jersey.
All right. I'll be curious to see if you're still playing Pokemon Go in a month. We'll check back and we'll see where everyone's at that point. Right on. Thank you so much, Mark. Really appreciate it.
Cheers.
All right. Have a good night. All right. A few days back, Jonathan Strickland and I discussed Amazon's plans to build 3 conjoined transparent spheres, inside which would be treehouse meeting rooms, among many other things, meant to inspire productivity and I'm guessing raise the bar in the my tech company does cool things for our employees too race. Jason S. Jones, that's at JS Jones on Twitter, sent us a tweet. He's a full stack engineer at Salesforce and tweeted us this picture saying, I heard you mention the new Amazon treehouses on TNT. Well, here they are in real life. Boom, surrounded by those old school buildings. Man, what an eyesore.
It just looks
I think
cool.
it looks cool. I think it looks really cool.
It is so a not efficient use of space, but it looks cool. And I don't know about you, but your space actually does define how you're going to work. If you walk into a box, a utilitarian box, into a cubicle inside your box with a standard computer in your cubicle inside your standard box, you work one way. But if you have a company that understands, hey, let's inject some fun and some weirdness into the day, that creates a certain culture. The closest I can think of is Zappos. I mean, Zappos, they grew up with that. But then as they got older, a lot of that kind of faded away. So I don't know.
And in this case, Amazon has kind of, from what I understand, resisted this kind of extravagance to a certain degree and is now moving in that direction. So I don't know what moves a company towards or away that sort of thing.
Well, now that they're an actual profitable company,
maybe that's it.
It's they have time to do stuff.
Yeah. And money.
And money.
And lots of money.
Yeah.
All right, coming up, 5G is a thing that will exist to speed up your mobile connectivity, but don't expect it anytime soon. We're going to chat about that. But first, let's take a minute to thank Wealthfront, the sponsor of this episode. You invest for the long term, for you, for your family's financial health. Trying to do that yourself is not always easy, especially if you're trying to do it the right way. It's complex, it's time consuming, no fun for the person that just doesn't understand the workings of all this stuff. Well, luckily, there's Wealthfront. Traditional advisors charge huge fees, between 1% to 3% of what they manage. With Wealthfront, you pay 1/4% a year. That's 25 basis points, 0 commissions, no hidden fees. It's less than $5 a month to invest a $30,000 account. There are no additional charges for any of Wealthfront's services. You can get started investing today with as little as $500. Now, unlike other financial advisors, Wealthfront won't bog you down with dozens of questions. They've simplified their risk identification process, which allows you to begin investing sooner. It only takes a few minutes to sign up, goes right to work, monitoring your portfolios around the clock, takes action as soon as an opportunity arises. Wealthfront's portfolios are based on modern portfolio theory. They're designed to adjust according to your personal risk tolerance and as well staying diversified and tax efficient. Wealthfront is transparent and accessible. You can view and track all your accounts in one place. Wealthfront can track both your Wealthfront and non-Wealthfront bank and brokerage accounts that they'll provide to you in a summary of all your assets. You can see every trade that Wealthfront makes on your behalf in your dashboard, on your desktop, with their mobile app. Wealthfront recently introduced their 529 college savings plan, allowing you to invest after-tax dollars, much like a Roth IRA, and save for your child or your grandchild's higher education expenses. Wealthfront manages almost $3 billion in client assets, and it's growing rapidly every single day. So you have no reason to wait. Invest in your future today with Wealthfront. Visit wealthfront.com/TNT to sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. You'll see the customized allocation they recommend for your profile. And just for Twit listeners, if you sign up to invest, Wealthfront will manage your first $15,000 entirely free of charge for life. Join the many Twit fans who've seen huge success with Wealthfront and claim your offer today at wealthfront.com/TNT. All right, so today the FCC made it official. It will work to adopt new rules that will usher in the era of 5G connectivity. In particular, the FCC was addressing the wireless spectrum above 24 gigahertz, making the U.S. the first country to do so. Go USA. The FCC's vote is aimed at opening up the spectrum so carriers can create faster networks. All good things.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah?
Although right now, saying 5G is like saying 4G 10 years ago, where it's like, oh yeah, 4, that's bigger than 3, so that must be better.
That's a bigger number.
Yeah, we get it. Okay, so 5G is supposed to be faster, but what exactly that means, we don't know. And not only that, the FCC vote to open up this new area of spectrum for wireless carriers, it doesn't actually create 5G. It's just setting aside spectrum. 5G is not going to come until 2020. So in 2020, the World Standards Organization is going to get together, and they're going to start looking at, okay, what works, what protocols should we work, what frequencies should this work on, how do we allocate the spectrum that's available? And so that's when we're actually going to get, quote-unquote, 5G. Until then, we'll get companies like Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile who will be rolling out flavors of 5G in hopes of affecting the agenda for that 2020 meeting. So that's how it's going to work. Will we start to see faster speeds? Flavors. Yeah.
That just kind of deflated the balloon right there.
Yeah, that's what we're going to run into. And it happened with LTE as well. There were 4 different companies in the United States claiming that they had LTE. It wasn't. None of them worked the same way. None of them worked. They were all 4G, quote unquote. But it wasn't until the standards body got together and said this is how LTE works that they were able to say, okay, that's actual 4G LTE.
Well, and this is what Tom Wheeler wants, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't want the FCC to get involved with how the technologies are doing this. He really wants, kind of seems like, at least at this point, the market, the operators, to figure this out on their own, which, ultimately feeds into what you're talking about. A bunch of different standards developed by a bunch of different, entities, basically. Right now, AT&T, like you said, Verizon, also Sprint, Samsung, they're all, all sorts of Google, Facebook are playing around with 5G. They're testing, they're researching 5G on their own. But yeah, it's 2016. We've got 4 years until this matters.
Not yes and no. So this year,
from a consumer perspective,
a consumer perspective, yes, but for the techies at Mobile World Congress, 5G was a thing. We weren't calling it 5G, but everyone knew what it was. And you had different flavors from Intel, and AT&T was there, and Lucent was there, and Verizon was there. And I went to a couple of the different briefings, and they all were looking at the same problem, and that is the FCC is talking about opening up this 24 gigahertz spectrum, which is great. More spectrum is good, but unlike a lot of the spectrum that they're using right now, like say the 900 megahertz, not gigahertz, that higher spectrum with the higher wavelength, it can move a lot of data, but it does not move well over long distances, and it does not penetrate. So it doesn't move through walls. So they're all looking at using things like beamforming, where you can actually have antennas, solid-state antennas that can focus their energy down a narrow azimuth, or using MIMO, multiple in, multiple out technologies, in order to take multiple streams of wireless RF and create one single connection. But when it works, it's fantastic. Verizon did this demonstration at their campus in New Jersey, where they were transmitting about 1,000 feet, and they were getting, 3.77 gigabits per second. That's almost 400 times faster than what we would consider normal for an LTE connection.
Just imagine how much Pokemon Go
You'd be Pokemoning like you wouldn't believe. You'd be oozing all over the Pokemon, really. Let's see, we're back to that. No.
I thought that was done.
Yeah. It's back.
Oh, boy, thanks. I did it myself.
It did, yeah. And go America, except the first major rollout that you're going to see of this is in 2018 at the Olympics in South Korea.
So explain that a little bit. So the first major rollout, who's utilizing it there? Is
Verizon.
it Verizon for Verizon subscribers that happen to be at the Olympics in South Korea?
No, so they've semi-partnered it up with a South Korean company by the name of KT. Which is one of the popular vendors over there. So they're testing the equipment on their towers. They're going to be rolling out certain phones and certain devices that can take advantage of the new frequencies. And then I think it's in Pyeongchang. That's where the Olympics are going to be. Supposedly they will have a 5G network fully deployed, and not only will they be testing it with phones, but they're going to have devices like Internet of Things devices and media streaming devices all around the Olympic Village that will really showcase what 5G can do.
Very interesting. Yeah, I'm super curious about this because Tom Wheeler has said in the past, like, yes, sure, this is about, speeding up data, but it's also, going to be super important for Internet of Things, like you were saying. Also things like augmented reality and virtual reality. And, hey, we're living in an augmented reality week right now with Pokemon Go. Yeah. Kind of hard to make to extract from Pokemon Go and then to what 5G could do. But if you take the very basic kind of thing that we have going on right now with Pokemon Go and you broaden that out and make it a whole lot more complex, requiring a lot more data throughput and all that kind of stuff, then a network that allows that to thrive, that's some really cool potential right there.
Oh, absolutely. But just from the consumer side again, just know that over the next couple of years, you will see plenty of products that are branded 5G. And they're 5G-ish. Okay, I don't want to say they're not. It's like, do you remember Draft N when they were releasing the 802.11n wireless standard? There was Draft N, and Draft N just basically meant we're guessing it's probably going to be pretty close to this. And you'll see that. And the average consumer won't care because they replace their phones so many times that if they get a 5G phone now, they're going to get a new phone by the time the official 5G is released. So all they'll know is, hey, this one seems faster.
It's a little bit faster. And let's see here, 3.85 gigahertz of licensed spectrum.
Correct.
With this, 7 gigahertz of unlicensed spectrum. So we've got what we're talking about right now with the carriers like AT&T, Verizon, or whatever have access to a certain part of that. That unlicensed spectrum, that's like the Wi-Fi.
It's Wild West.
Basically.
It's absolutely Wild West. And it's important because what the Wi-Fi industry of the United States has been coming together to tell the FCC is, we will use every bit of spectrum that you allocate for us. And just like the Wi-Fi revolution sparked an entirely new generation of devices and an entirely new economy, we can do the same thing with this new unlicensed 24 gigahertz spectrum. So give it to us, and we'll make it right. Now, all of the equipment, both in the licensed and the unlicensed spectrum, are going to be frequency agile, which means that they'll jump from frequency to frequency without dropping calls, without dropping data connections. That's what they're designed to do, which means it's kind of like a force multiplier. The days of saying this particular frequency belongs to me are over. Now it's, if you want a device that's going to survive in the real world, that device must work on multiple frequencies, on multiple spectrums, even on multiple carriers. Otherwise, people will just pass.
Kind of reminds me of having a walkie-talkie.
Yeah,
you're like, oh, somebody's on here. I'm going to hop to a different frequency.
Like, hey,
but it does that automatically for you.
I switched to channel 2. There's someone on here. I can't hear you.
Exactly. Yes, 5G, almost just like a walkie-talkie. We've made that, that correlation right now. Cool. I knew you were the right person to talk to about that. Thank you for that. TNT's fan of the day is Herbaloo at Herbaloo on Twitter, who says, very surprised to find 0 Pokemon while listening to Tech News today and trying out Pokemon Go in Japan. Is Pokemon Go working in Japan?
Yeah, I've seen videos.
They broadened it out because it was limited at first, right? And that was why everybody was getting into hot water because they were sideloading, at least on Android, they were sideloading the app, and in some cases they were sideloading tainted, like malware infected.
Well, but Pokemon Go should work anywhere that Ingress worked.
Okay.
And, well, Ingress was big in Japan, so yeah, maybe.
Excellent. Well, I'm sorry you didn't find a Pokemon. I'm also sorry a chicken didn't randomly walk into your picture.
I saw that picture. So we have chickens that just walk through town here.
And actually, every time I go to that, almost every time I go to that car wash,
there's a chicken.
It's just like hanging out.
You don't have chickens at your house, though.
No, I do not. I mean, but a lot of my neighbors do.
That is your right as a Petalumen to have 5 chickens.
I was going to say something most people who are watching or listening do not know about Petaluma is that tons of people here own chickens. It's like just a thing. You know, I've got a chicken coop in my backyard and I get eggs, and it's just the way it is here. It's normal.
Cranky Hippo has chickens. He says he gets fresh eggs every morning.
Isn't that awesome? I know. I'm thinking I need to get some chickens.
I don't like his
I never
eggs, though.
thought I would ever say that.
Because the steroids in my store-bought chickens, they still taste so much better.
Yeah, it's just, by the way, you can show us how you watch or listen to TNT, or or raise your chickens. I don't know. Whatever. Just send us a picture, record a video, whatever you have. Post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we will find it. Up next, Nintendo takes another trip back in time. But first, let's take a minute to thank Tracker. They are the sponsor of this episode. With advancements in technology, we have smart cars, smartphones, smart homes, but losing things just makes you feel not so smart. And that's where Tracker comes in. Tracker makes losing things a thing of the past. Plenty of times in my past, I walk through the door, I set down my keys somewhere randomly, and then I have to try and go back and find them later when I'm in a hurry. Of course, it's always when you're in a hurry and you can't find the keys, they've been moved, or you put them in some stupid place. Like, why would I ever put them there? Well, with the Tracker attached to the keys, it actually makes finding them super easy. It's a coin-sized device. Locates obviously misplaced keys, but also wallets, computers, even pets. Just use your imagination. That's what you can do with Tracker. The Tracker Bravo is constructed with beautiful anodized aluminum for thinnest, most durable tracking. You pair Tracker to your iOS or Android device, attach it to anything. It has a key loop, or you can use adhesive, and you'll find its precise location with the tap of a button. It's really that easy. You can customize two-way separation alerts to receive notifications before you leave your item behind. And if you happen to lose your phone, it works in the other direction. You press the button on the Tracker and your phone rings even when it's on silent. With over 1.5 million devices, Tracker has the largest crowd GPS network in the world. So your lost item shows up on a map, even if it happens to be miles away. And if an item goes missing, the Tracker app records its last known location on a map. And then when another Tracker user comes within 100-foot range of your lost item, you're going to get a GPS update of where your item is located. Your phone can track up to 10 devices at once. Tracker's enabled by Bluetooth LE, that's low energy, so the battery lasts up to 1 year. There's also water-resistant cases available for purchase. That's perfect for things like pet collars. You can even laser engrave a message on the Tracker Bravo. If it's on your pet collar, there you go. Now they know the name of your pet when they return. Tracker recently introduced Tracker Atlas, which works with your Tracker Bravo or third-party Bluetooth tracker to pinpoint your items on a customizable floor plan of your home. Save time and energy by simply asking Tracker Atlas where your item is, and you'll instantly get the answer that you need. No need to search anymore. So go to thetracker.com. You'll never lose your possessions again. Plus, just for our audience, if you enter promo code TNT, you'll get 30% off your entire order. That's TheTracker.com. Promo code TNT for 30% off your entire Tracker order. All right, finally, Nintendo is kind of on a roll right now. Basically, they've figured out that people really like Nintendo things from back in the day. Nintendo scored big with Pokemon, of course, and now the company introduced its next console. The next Nintendo console is the old Nintendo console, the NES Classic Edition. Their new console is Same old console as the original NES, but shrunken down to be a miniature version of the old system, slightly larger than your hand, let's say, as you can see in this picture. Ships with one classic NES controller, though you can buy other controllers if you want. Well, you really only need one other. There's one other port. There's a power supply, obviously, and an HDMI cable to plug it into your non-CRT TV. Going full digital here. And there is more. Built into the system is 30 classic titles.
Oh, yay.
From the system, including Super Mario Brothers 1 through 3, of course, Castlevania 1 and 2, Zelda 1 and 2, Excite Bike. I mean, there's 50 games. So, what do you think?
I will say, they're definitely going for the whole retro thing.
It's working.
It is absolutely working. I will say that for slightly 1/3 of the price of this, you could just make yourself a RetroPie, but
true,
it won't look as cool as a little Nintendo in your hand.
Yeah, there's something about that little form factor.
It's kind of cute, right?
Yeah, it is kind of cute. $59.99 is the price for this. So it's basically the system, a controller, and 50 games.
I'm very excited about that controller because that was the one that introduced me to carpal tunnel syndrome. Because you have to hold it at such a weird angle to make it work right.
Yeah, it was a little weird, but if you're gonna play those old Nintendo games, like you kind of need.
You kind of need it. Yeah, it feels right.
Like I have some of them on my main cabinet at home, and it's just not the same with a normal, big like arcade style joystick. It's just not the same.
It's not.
You want the real controller. November 11th. So perfect for holiday time. Basically, is what they're banking on. This is going to be a great quick gift idea for a lot of people. North America and the UK, November 11th. And I bet you'll get one. Will you? No, you probably won't.
No, because I got a RetroPie.
Yeah.
I don't have 30 or 50 games. I've got like 400 games. So
I don't have 30 or 50. I've got all of them.
I've got 30 in the first screen, and then you scroll. But okay, sure.
Go ahead and brag a little. It's okay. It's okay. Father Robert, always a pleasure getting you on the show. Tell people kind of what you're doing outside of helping me out with this show.
Well, I'm running a campaign. I'm walking the streets of San Francisco, slapping the phones out of people's hands who are playing Pokemon Go, and just telling them to stop that. Look up. The sky is out there.
You're a hater.
I'm not a hater. It's just I played Ingress for 2.5 years, and I know.
Oh, so you're I was there first.
I'm recovering. I'm like, don't go down the path, man. I've been down the path. It ends. It just falls off a cliff. No, but we're still doing a plenty of fun stuff over at Know How. We record on Thursdays. We do 2 episodes. One that's released on Thursday. One that's released on Monday. Right now we're doing. It's called Grow How. It's the Green Geek series. We're essentially showing people, with technology and with old-fashioned methods, how to make things that grow. Check us out. It's a lot of fun. And if you want to find out what we're doing every week, follow me on Twitter. I'm at PadreSJ.
What are you growing?
Well, right now, beans.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought. That's what I meant.
Sugar peas. So there we go.
That's kind of what I figured. Thanks again. Always fun.
It's always a pleasure.
Tomorrow marks the triumphant return of Megan Maroney. I'm assuming she's going to walk through the door and be fully tanned and
I don't know,
slightly depressed because she's not on a beach anymore.
I was following her Twitter account. I don't know if she's coming back.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
I don't know if I would, based on some of the pictures of the beaches that she's been hanging out at for the past week. But we will be happy to have her back sitting in that chair. I know I will. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be a part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv. You can leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW. You can hit us up on Twitter. We're at Tech News Today TV. And you can find all the ways to subscribe. You go to twit.tv/TNT. I'm on Twitter at Jason Howell. Thanks to our technical director, Kara Cole. Thanks to Greg for the words and everyone who helps us produce the show every single day. And thanks to you for talking tech with us. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Go Team Valor!